Hey pals, welcome to Frame and Fiber. I'm so glad you're here. I thought we could chat about knitting, some of the things that are going on here at the shop, and to just catch up. I've missed you. And I'm coming to you from my picture framing and yarn shop in Point Pleasant, New Jersey, which is called Frame and Fiber, the same name as this YouTube channel. So welcome in, friends. Grab a drink. I did not bring a warm, cozy beverage. And if you can tell by looking at me, today is a warm, cozy beverage sort of a day. So I think I might make some tea after I finish chatting with you. So if you have some tea, I hope you do. I hope you're cozy. Would you like to know what I'm wearing? I'm wearing lots of knits. Okay, so the most recent make are these. These are my, ooh, look how much pilling's going on there. I've been wearing them nonstop since I finished them. That's not true. Maybe not since I finished them, but since it got chilly here. So these are the Riverfront Mitts by Amber Swim. You can find these on Ravelry, and they're super fun to knit. Look at that cool pattern. I love them. I made them out of chickadee. Quince & Co. chickadee, which I sell here at the shop, and you can find this yarn in my online shop, which is my Etsy shop. So you can find me on Etsy at Frame and Fiber NJ. If that's confusing, you can go to my website and click on the shop, yarn shop, and it'll bring you directly there. Or you can pop in and see it for yourself. The next most recent make is this one, which is, I've made this twice now, and I need to make another one in like a dark gray hat or gray color. This is the Merge hat by Emily Green. This is done in Quince & Co. Phoebe. It's a DK weight yarn. This pattern, you can see, it's so pretty. The ribs just kind of play around and move. They merge into each other. I think I've decided that ribbed or cabled hats fit me best because they stretch way better than a stockinette hat does. I guess a garter hat would work. No, see, garter's too floppy. I need the, it's not that I need the stretch. Let me take that back. They squish in because of the nature of the ribbing, right? The ribbing just tends to want to shrink in, but it stretches out to the size. And so my head is, I have a tiny head, which is funny because I don't have a tiny body, but my head is small. And average size adult hats, I mean, even if I bought hats in the store, they're too big on my head. So the ribbed hats are great because I can follow the pattern for a regular size adult hat and it fits me. Yeah. So great hat, great pattern. I think this was the first hat that I did. Was it the first hat? No, maybe not. I was about to say maybe it was the first hat that I did a, oh my gosh, I can't think of the name of it. A tubular cast on. I think this is the first hat, but I've done it on socks before too, so maybe I'm fibbing. Anyway, that's my new most favorite cast off. Bind off, cast on, both. Okay, then my next most recent, which is super old, is my cardigan that I'm wearing. This is the Evelyn cardigan by Jennifer Wood. This was a great, the big truck go by. This was a great pattern to knit. My elbows. I wear this so much. I think it's starting to become threadbare. Let me show you the back. Can you see the back? I'm like really close. Let's see, can I kneel? That'll work. So let me open that up for you. I hope you're seeing it. It's a great cardigan. It is knit flat. That's because it's a cardigan. And I believe the sleeves are set in sleeves, right? They are, aren't they? Jennifer Wood, the Evelyn cardigan. I made this out of, don't you love that little detail there? I made this out of Cascade yarns. It's a chain plied yarn. Not chain plied. It's like a braided yarn. What is it called? Eco Cloud. Eco Cloud. It's, I think, 50 merino, 50 baby alpaca. It is very soft. It is very warm. This sweater I made back in the olden days when I still didn't have my knits and pearls, the tension even, so you can see these little lines. That's not intentional. I still love it. I think it's the best sweater. It's so comfortable. These cables are so beautiful. It was fun to do. This was the first sweater that I made that I said, oh, I finally have a sweater that fits me the way I was hoping it would from the beginning. So very special pattern. It has a Peter Pan collar, which I'm not the biggest fan of, but it works. And then last but not least, this, do you guys remember? Right now, Pearl Soho is like all over the place with their quill yarn and their, what's the pattern called? You know, it's the triangle wrap, rectangle wrap, simple wrap. Anyway, you know what I'm talking about. You're probably yelling it at me. They're everywhere right now. Everyone's making that pattern and using that yarn. Well, this was also a Pearl Soho pattern that had stormed the nation back in like 2012, maybe. It was a long time ago. It's called the Bandana Cowl. Pearl Soho. I don't want to take it off. Okay, I'll take it off to show you. Oh, but it's so chilly. So this is a great pattern. I think this is a good one to teach for kind of like an intermediate class if you're teaching short rows. You know, maybe you want to teach a different sort of cast on and bind off. Anyway, the Bandana Cowl by Pearl Soho. I made a ton of these back in the olden days before sweaters entered my life. I used, you know what, I don't remember what yarn this is. This could be a Noro, right? It doesn't look like it could be a Noro. But also it could be a Cascade. I feel like Cascade has a few yarns like this. So that's what I'm wearing. Oh, I also have socks. It's an Into the World colorway. Anyway, you didn't need to see my feet. I'm sure by now 90% of you have tuned out. Okay, so that's what I'm wearing. I haven't done one of these sit down and chat to you videos in a very long time. Have you been liking the vloggy type shorter format that I've been doing? Oh, someone's banging on my back door. Hold on, I'll be back. Sorry about that. I had a delivery. Okay, so are you knitting? Are you spinning? Are you weaving? Are you cross-stitching? What are you guys doing? What has your crafty mind completely obsessed right now? What is it that you're working on that you can't wait to get home to? I want to hear all about it. I don't know if I've had one thing that I've been obsessed with lately. I was obsessed with knitting my vest, which I think I showed to you in one of my older videos. But then I have to rip part of it out. And I have to rip part of it out because I just knitted. I got the front side all done. I think I showed this to you. It's all finished. The front is good. You knit in the round and then you split. The back, I have to rip out to maybe about here. It's not that much ripping out, but I do need to rip it out because I didn't decrease properly. So let me show you what it's supposed to look like on the front, so then you can see what I did and go, oh yeah, you need to rip that out. So this is what it looks like on the front. But on the back, I decreased here, when really I was supposed to decrease here and a little bit here. So, and why am I decreasing? So I'm making the shoulders a little bit more narrow than the size that I made for my bust, because anytime I make a vest, anytime the sizing is just not right for my measurement from shoulder to shoulder. So I needed to cinch those in. And this is an Elizabeth Smith pattern. This is called the Massaman vest. And I've made several of her patterns, and they've always been a little bit too wide. I've fixed the problem in the past by just not doing a ribbed edge and just doing an I-cord. That always, or actually no, strike that, not even an I-cord. Doing a crocheted crab stitch around the edge. But this pattern doesn't call for picking up and finishing an edge, because this is the finished edge. So I went down a size for the shoulders, which meant, all it meant was that I had to decrease a little bit more. I'm wondering though, because I'm decreasing, I wonder if I'm going to have much more openness, you know, here, and if my bra will show. I have no idea. But I do want to hear from you guys, like what your opinions are on fit, because the patterns are written just like a commercial garment is made to fit an overall average size. You know, even in the patterns that are more size inclusive, they're still general, right? It's still following a certain proportion, bigger or smaller. I measured myself. So I have several sweaters that I wear all the time, and I love them, but they're always a little bit too, they're off in the body. They might fit across fine. The arms are fine, the length is fine, all that's fine, but there's always too much space from the bust down. I'm editing, and I wanted to cut in here because what I realized is I was talking about, I said space in here, in here, in here. That's not the space I meant to talk about. It's actually the space from the front to the back. I have way more fabric in the back of the sweater, and so it flares out. That's what I was trying to say. Okay, carry on. And I know I can fix that with adding darts, or yeah, like decreased darts. And I've done that in a couple yoked sweaters and it worked fine. But I think I might need to try to make a pieced sweater so that I can actually make the sizes for the parts of my body. So I measured around here, right? What size am I? What's 17 plus 22? 9. Is that 49? 39? No. It's 17 plus 22. 9. Okay, 39. Sorry. So it's 39 inches from my armpits, right directly underneath. From here to here is 22, and from here to here is 17. It's 5 inches. 5 inches. So I have figured on the yoked sweaters, I have fixed that by, instead of putting my sleeves directly from side to side, you know, say that the sweater is 42 inches. Instead of doing it at 21 and 21, I think I moved the sleeves back on the circle, the circumference, to then force some of the fabric to the forward. And I feel like that worked. And then I decreased a little under my top. I'm thinking if I did a pieced sweater, everything flat, then I could do my back size, right? So I could pick and choose the sizes. I don't know. What do you think? There's got to be a way, and there is, because people make garments all the time that fit them perfectly. But I am disproportionate. Or, see, I'm not disproportionate. My body's fine. It's just that I don't fall in, which I think most of us don't fall in to that average ratio that patterns go by. And I'm assuming too, and I don't know if this is correct, and you can definitely, if any of you are pattern writers out there, I'm assuming if you are a woman who's writing a knitted garment pattern and your measurements, I don't know, are you writing it to your measurements and then upping it from there? Right? So like your ratio, those percentages don't change? I'm curious. For instance, in my sizing in commercial garments, like in this dress, for instance, my dress that I'm wearing, my top is an extra large. My hips are a large. My waist is a medium. If I go by sizing. So yeah, what do you think? Can you give me your opinion? Cardigans are great because I don't have to worry about, you know, they fit differently. You don't look as much of a potato sack when you have something that can be open, because you can glimpse a little bit of my silhouette. My silhouette. So that's what I've been thinking about with my sweaters. And I'm mentioning that because as I'm making this, I thought, oh, I might have too much space now that I've decreased it here instead of maybe decreasing it here. I'll live with it. I'll wear a t-shirt under it. Actually, I'm making it to wear underneath or over top of this dress because look at the color. It's perfect. All right, I want to hear your opinions. So that's what I'm working on. That's what I need to rip out. I think once I kind of lost my knitting mojo because of this. Well, I lost my mojo for this project because of that. So I need to rip that out. Once I do, I'm almost done with this. Like, I'm so close. I think last time we spoke, I thought I was going to have that finished. And I don't. Next, I frogged a shawl, and I'm going to put a picture of it here. I frogged a shawl that I knitted several years ago. It was a shawl that I invented, and it was fun. It was a great, fun experience to try to do something from scratch back in the day. Back in the day. If I did it now, I would do it totally different. And I just never, big shock. I just never wore it. It wasn't the shape, just, it wasn't my thing. But the colors are my thing because it's gray and yellow. Dark grays and yellow. So this was a kit from, not a kit, the grays. See how it's gradient? It's really not. These were minis. It was a mini set. Gradient mini set, but mini set. And the yellow, so I'm marling the mini set and the yellow together. It's a 1x1 rib. That way it can be reversible. I did my tubular bind on, cast on. That's what I've got left. Obviously, I'm going to have tons of this left over. Not an issue. I will just then continue knitting with that. So I'm just using up this yarn. I think this is going to be one of those, you know, when you fold it over and you stitch it to the side of the bottom. I'm going to do one of those and maybe make it into a Christmas gift. Super stretchy, super cozy. The yarn is Lolo Did It, which I don't know about you guys, but I haven't heard about Lolo Did It in forever. I bought this when the Grocery Girls were new on the scene and I watched them. I haven't watched them in forever, but they used to love the Lolo. I have no idea what the Lolo's up to now, but that's what I'm knitting. So I was really happy to rip that out. And if you guys have stuff sitting around, that you're not using, but you love the yarn. If you're not using it and you don't love the yarn, give it away. Give it to anyone. Be free of it. Let it go live its best life with someone else. But if you love the yarn too much to give it away, frog it and redo it. I'm enjoying this knit. I like a 1x1 rib. It makes me feel, I knit continental, and so it's just a really nice rhythm. Oh, that's funny. I just said the Parachute Girls. And that's a Mrs. Brown's bag. That, and then the last couple of things that I'm working on, all tiny things that, I mean, it is gift giving season, so, and this is a twofer. I am doing a beginner knitting class, and this is the project that I am having them do. This is the 2x2 ribbed hat by Anne Gannon. However, there's also a pattern by Lavanya Patricelli called Standing Rock that I like. To me, the two of them are very interchangeable. They're both free patterns and they're both 2x2 ribbed hats. I feel like the decreasing might be a little bit different. Anywho, so this is the beginner class that I'm doing with the ladies. This is where they need to get to, and when they come in next week, I'll teach them the decreasing. So it's a 2x2. Look at that color. And basically, if your screen is exactly what my screen looks like, that is pretty dead on. This is the coolest, brightest, ultraviolet, like darkroom purple. No, darkrooms are red. Ultraviolet. I don't know. It's very cool. Ultraviolet. We can't see it technically, right? Isn't that the way that we can't see them? It's great. Yes, I did the tubular bind on, cast on. I did not teach the newbies that. When I say newbies, I think all of these women, yeah, all of them had made like a scarf before. So they knew how to cast on, so I didn't have to worry about the cast on. So they cast it on, and I gave them a couple tips on casting on. And then we just started knitting, and we just, you know, chatted knitting. So when I teach a beginner class, it'll still be a hat, because I think knitting in the round, I feel like when you make a hat as a newbie, you feel more accomplished than when making just a flat scarf. That's what it has seemed like the few different ways that I've taught new knitters how to knit. For all of them, when they come in, I've already cast it on for them, because I feel like if you're teaching a new class, you could spend hours on casting on and 2 hours casting on, and you will have students who leave frustrated. And that's not really the best way to get them to love knitting. Plus, if they don't have a lot of time knitting with you in person and they go home and they're so unused to the movement and they make a mistake, they're more likely to just forget about it. So the way I've changed it, the way I changed the way I teach, it's cast on for them. And when they get here to the shop for their lesson, I teach them how to knit. That's it. And so they get into the rhythm of working, and they can see their progress. Casting on, you don't really feel much of much progress when you're just casting on. So they feel progress. They get a few rows done while they're with me. While they're with me, they definitely make mistakes, and so I can show them what to do. So yeah, that seems to work. So they're getting to their 8.5 to 9 inches, depending on what size they're making. So I could finish this tonight, but I want to knit this with them in class, so this is going to just wait. Do you teach knitting? Do you have tried and true methods that you like? I would love to hear them. Tell me all the things. I think I might ask some questions in the community tab of my YouTube channel too. So if you want to hang out with me over there and answer some questions, that would be cool. It'll all be about what we're talking about here. Okay, so my next work in progress will be a pair of socks that originally I thought I was going to gift, but now I think I'm going to keep because these are my colors. I wear black, white, and gray a lot, even though I'm all in browns, whatever. This is a self-striping yarn from Clark & L. It was a sock tube that I cut in half, knit my toe, knit my cuff, and I have my stitch marker there to cut in my heel. Same thing over here. So I don't know if you guys have ever knit with a sock tube and cutting it in half to make 2 socks. There's a direction that it was knit, and that's the direction that you want to follow. So one sock, when I knit it, my nose is so itchy. The yarn, the cut yarn, the tail, is where it needs to be on this right side, and I can start knitting in the round. The other sock, if you hold the yarn so that it's on the right side, you'll actually be knitting backwards, and you're going to have a little bit of a gap because you're essentially knitting over them. You'll just have a little, there'll be a space. I like to avoid that space, and the way I avoid that space is the second sock I turn inside out. This is right side out, inside out, and I knit on the inside. That's how I solve those issues. Do you run into those issues? What do you do? Am I asking too many questions in this episode? I'm sorry. Ay, ay, ay. So Clark & L, this is 64 stitches, afterthought heel. So that's my knitting right now. I'm doing a lot more drawing. I'm doing a lot more cross stitching. Oh, I took video of my most recent finished object. I'm going to put that in here. Pals, I wanted to show you something I just finished. So it's nighttime. I'm doing after hour framing. It's for myself, you know, it's the gift giving season is approaching, and I wanted to make something for a pal. I didn't start this out for the pal. I started this out to see if I would like cross stitching, and I've decided that I like cross stitching. So this is what I made. This is for my friend Mars. She picks a word every year. I think a lot of you do that. I do not necessarily pick a word for the year. But so a few years ago, this was her word. And as I was working on this, this was a scrap piece of linen. It's 34 count, 32 count, 34 count. Is that a thing? As I was working on this, her Mars kept popping into my mind. And this word specifically, like that just kept popping into my mind as I was working on it, because it felt not so much a ritual, because it didn't feel like it was something that I was doing with a purpose over and over, because I really was just practicing. But the ritual of each little stitch, it was just so peaceful. And it did feel a little bit like a ritual, even though, like I said, it wasn't the exact definition of this word. However, Mars kept popping into my head. And so then I found myself thinking about Mars and praying. And so anyway, I've decided that this is going to be for her. And I wanted to show this to you guys because It's my cross stitch, which I've never showed you guys my cross stitch. I've only shown you other people's cross stitches. But I did want to say that I usually put glass on stuff, and I didn't put glass on this because I thought this would be something more like a sign rather than a picture frame. I don't know if that, so it's not, doesn't have glass on it, but I framed it. You can still see my pins. So it's really tiny. And the one edge, there was maybe 3/8 of an inch of fabric. Because like I said, I was just trying to see if I liked cross stitch. I wasn't going to necessarily keep a cross stitch. So it only has about 3/8 of an inch. I think it's like 10 threads. It's super, most of you would say, oh, you probably can't frame this for me because, but no, see, I can. I just had to wrap it around to the edge of the artwork. So because I had to wrap it to the edge, I didn't want to cover it. I had a little frame that I made for it, but it covered a lot of the design. So this is what I came up with. And I think it's pretty cute. Yes, you can see my pins, but I kind of like that you can see my pins. It's kind of like the upholstery, whatever, you know, on like leather furniture and big furniture. And then I mounted it on top of a piece of foam board to give it lift off of the fabric mat. I think she will like it. I hope she doesn't mind that I just talked about her on my channel. Don't tell her. All right, so do you like it? Okay, cross-stitching friends. I really, really enjoyed doing this. So the pattern isn't really a pattern, right? But it is. So I bought Modern Folk Embroidery, one of his small little square pieces. I think it's called Winter Birds, or I feel like it's called Winter Birds. If it's that's not correct, I'll correct it down here. And it has this around the border. Now the piece itself is a square, so it actually comes down, it would be this entire piece straight up. Does that make sense? I guess, yeah, it's this width would be the same as the height. So I didn't do that. So I had to modify the pattern, and I just wanted the border. So that's why I have that. And I don't know if this is the full border. I can't remember. And then as I was doing it, like I said, oh, ritual. So I wanted to make sure I could fit this in there, which, not being a cross stitch or maybe I'm a lowercase c cross stitcher. I wasn't too sure how to do that, so I kind of guessed. And then once I finished the square, I just kind of figured out from fonts and from my love of graph paper. And that's how I came up with the lettering. So super cool. I'm not going to go deep down a rabbit hole. I don't want to go down I say this. I wasn't going to knit. I wasn't going to spin. I wasn't going to do any of these crafty things, and now I love them. So I say that. I don't want to go down the rabbit hole, but I can't wait to start my next cross stitch. All right, that's it. Carry on. So yeah, that was my cross-stitched finished object. My finally finished object, actually, because it was framed by me. I do cross-stitch framing. Did you know that? I do framing. This is all frames. So if you need anything framed, hit me up. So what's new at the shop, right? Other than picture framing and knitting, that's pretty much it. I'm sorry. No, for real. I've been framing a lot. I think I say this every time I make a video, but thank you all for sending your precious treasures to me to be framed. It's amazing how many people I've connected with here on YouTube about picture framing. So thank you. Also, I was curious. So I do kits here at the shop. You know, if you come into the store, on my table, I have baskets with, you know, hat kits, that kind of a thing. Mitt kits. Is that something that you would like to see in my online store as well? I never know what you guys want to see. So comment below. Man, I'm asking you guys to contribute a lot of comments to this episode. So why don't I leave you here so you can go comment. I hope you have a beautiful day. I hope you have friends and family that you love and today can do something nice for them. I hope there's someone in your life that could use a smile or a hug from you. I hope that you think of someone every day who you can love. Extra, extra. My friend Bonnie always says to look in on our senior, what does she call them? I don't think she uses the word senior. At church, we call them our senior saints. What do we call senior pearls? I forget what Bonnie calls them, but she always says to check in on them. So why don't you check in on somebody today? I think I'll check in on someone too. All right, this is way too long. I'm sorry I've kept you this long. I will see you in the next video. Until then, bye.